One of the biggest games from Microsoft over the past decade or so is the Gears of War franchise. However, during the series generation of Xbox, the Coalition, who is the lead developer of that series now, has been relatively quiet. And while Gears 5 did get a next generation update or upgrade on those consoles, we haven't really seen much more. However, recently it's been rumored that we're going to hear about a Gears 6 reveal in the next coming month. And in this video, I'm going to go over some of the things I would love to see out of a Gears of War 6 and what this reveal might actually tell us about the future of that franchise. So let's take a look. Journalist for The Verge, Tom Warren, recently commented that there is supposed to be a Gears of War 6 announcement coming up in the next Xbox showcase, which happens in June. And this is probably the biggest piece of news that Gears of War fans have had for quite some time related to a potential Gears 6, because as it stands, the Coalition and Microsoft have been relatively quiet in regards to that series, which is quite unfortunate because it's, in my opinion, a staple of Xbox and Microsoft. And beyond that, however, or this rumor, which by many other journalists is considered to be relatively valid or legitimate, Tom Warren has been known as being a reliable source when it comes to these things. It doesn't really have much else to it. There's not really much more details as to what this may include. I know I saw some fake screenshots floating around which don't really tell us much, of course, but I understand that the Gears franchise itself, Gears 5, while it was well received by most gaming critics, and I myself was a gargantuan fan of that game, I still to this day actively play Gears 5. It seems to have kind of fallen to the wayside a bit in terms of player count and player base, as well as even relevance to most people now picking up the Xbox consoles. So I'm really hoping that Gears 6 will not take too many risks when it comes to the franchise. Not like Gears of War Judgment, of course, but also take some necessary risks in being able to reinvigorate more players and more people who are big fans of that franchise or who've otherwise never played that franchise. I thought Gears 5 did a better job than Gears 4, of course, of offering better game modes and more game modes in general to try to appeal to broader audiences. However, I also felt like maybe in some cases that wasn't marketed well enough to people who've never played that game series, and as a result might not have grabbed them in the way that it should have. Now, keep in mind, Gears as a series is generally a little less accessible than a Halo or a Call of Duty to the average gamer, and in my opinion, to get really good at it, there's a lot larger of a learning curve to it. However, on the other side of things, I think there's a lot to be enjoyed about the game, as well as the stories, the single player modes, and of course there's even more casual style game modes like Horde. And I'm going to assume that within this announcement, or within the re-announcement of this series kind of making a comeback, we're going to see more related to things like Horde, or even there's been some rumors floating around that they may potentially try a battle royale type mode, which isn't really my thing. But if it brings up the player count and the interest in this series, I don't think it's a terrible direction for that game to take. And further to that, I myself would like to see just more variety in free-for-all modes. I have been personally obsessed with playing free-for-all in Gears 5, so to see a bit of an expansion on that in terms of map types, maybe even more smaller maps in that game mode, I think that would be a nice addition to that series. And just to state this, I feel like Gears 5 in a lot of ways perfected the Gears formula and fixed some of the things that I didn't like so much in Gears 4. And so I'm not really looking, me myself as a fan of this series, for Coalition to change much going into Gears 6, other than them expanding on some things and maybe even potentially adding more or different game types to draw a bigger audience for this game series. However, as it stands, the details are relatively sparse. I'm really excited to see a Gears 6 making a comeback for that franchise, because it seems like it's been a little too long at this point. So I'm really excited for next month and hope that we get some more solid details, or even get anything at this point regarding Gears 6, and basically seeing what the Coalition has in store for us.